But you know, some churches, are they getting too radical? Are they getting far off the biblical base? We know with the ELCA issue going on right now, Trinity Lutheran just had their vote this past weekend, and they have voted to leave and go to the NALC. But we know the struggle that we had to go through here, didn't we? So the question comes up, are we salty saints for God? You know, just like salt adds flavor to food, are we salty saints? Are we adding flavor to the people's lives that we touch? You know, Jesus commanded us to be salt of the earth. And why would he do that? He knew what salt can do. He knew the power of salt. He asked us to be just like that. Because if we think about it, salt also can cleanse. And it can also heal. If you think about it, we at home, we live in the country, so my wife doesn't like that rusty taste in the water. I happen to love it, but you know, to keep peace in the home, sometimes you just have to give up. So we went and we bought this water softener, and what do I put down in this big container? I put in salt. So here it is that salt cleans away all of these lime deposits, and quite frankly, it does make the water taste pretty good for the people that come. But I still like to take a dip right out of there before it hits that salt, because it's good iron water. But if we think about it also, salt preserves too, doesn't it? Remember way back when, they didn't have refrigerators. So if a man would go out and he'd kill his stuff and he'd bring his meat in, they'd have to pack it in salt in order to preserve it so it wouldn't go bad. You know, the other thing is, has anybody ever taken salt, just plain old salt, and just tossed it on your tongue? You know your tongue has several different layers of ability to taste. Parts of it are bitter, parts of it recognize sweet. In fact, I would challenge you to go home today, and in fact, if you want, right after church, I'm sure we have salt in fellowship hall. You take your donut, dip it all down in there, you toss it in your mouth, and I want to see the reaction. I want to see what happens. It's kind of bitter, isn't it? It's kind of strong if you put a lot on it. You know, the other thing that I was thinking about was TV. And in fact, this example came up on the internet as I was doing some research this week for the message. And if you remember the movie Gone with the Wind, many of you remember Gone with the Wind? I don't. So I had to see these little snippets. I've never watched it. But I was reading some commentary about Gone with the Wind. And in fact, the thing that upset people the most about that movie was right at the end. Because the movie said one cuss word. One cuss word. Totally outraged everybody. In fact, all these comments of people, I can't believe they had that cuss word in there. It was such a good movie. They ruined the entire movie with the one cuss word. You know, the funny part was I was at Mom and Dad with Kemmery last night visiting, and we turned on the TV to watch this one Blue Blood, or whatever, it's a New York cop show. Actually, it's pretty good. Until we got about halfway through it, and they taped it, they DVR'd it, and they got about halfway through it, and then some vulgarity came, and it ruined it. And it's like, when did we as a society get so comfortable to allow this stuff to happen? You know, I remember growing up as a kid in the 70s and 80s, you never saw that stuff on TV, you never heard those things. But now it just seems to be an accepted practice of society. What has gone wrong? And in fact, it's not enough. Now it's like people half naked on TV, and it's like, I don't want to watch that stuff. No thanks. It doesn't appease to me. You know, as a Christian, I had to ask myself this driving home last night as Kemmery was sleeping in the car. What do I stand for as a Christian? And in fact, many of you probably saw Kathy in the paper this week with her group. and they're reforming this group. Is there a name for it yet?
No.
Okay, unnamed group. But one of the things was getting back to the principles of Christianity upon which this country was founded. So the question came up to my mind, what do I stand for? Do I stand for this stuff that I see on TV? Am I putting a good example forth in the things that I speak? Am I a fake maker? Do I go out and I act fake to other people and then I'm a different way when you don't see me? Another thing, am I adding good influence on other people? Am I adding flavor to their life? Well, I know I dance up here every once in a while, and I belt out a good song every once in a while. Is that a good influence for this congregation? I hope I sing on key. I hope it's fun. Are my actions causing other people to sin? We as Christians have to ask that every day. The examples that I am showing other people, is that showing them the right way to live? Or am I leaving a very bad taste in other people's mouths? Or am I leaving them very bland because I'm afraid to talk about the Word, and Jesus Christ and what He's done for my life? Jesus' whole point behind this message that He was giving to His people was salt is a good thing. But salt is a good thing only when it's in its proper amount. Too much of a good thing can probably turn people off. Too little leaves people totally bland. They won't want to come around. And in fact, salt should be that wow flavor that just comes in your mouth and should come into your heart and make you feel alive for Jesus Christ. You know, we talked about Emerald just a few minutes ago, and watching him on TV this week is always fun. Because right towards the end, he'll tell you the importance of this dish is to make sure you taste it. Make sure the flavors are just perfect. Everything is just great. And if it's not, you need to do a little bit of BAM with your salt, don't you? BAM! This tastes really good. I got you excited now? All right. There we go. I found this quote by Oliver Holmes. I had to wake a couple of you up. You were kind of dozing on me. I thought this quote was kind of interesting. I might have entered the ministry if certain clergymen I knew didn't act like a bunch of undertakers. Did you all get that one? Let me read it again. I might have entered the ministry if certain clergymen I knew didn't act like a bunch of undertakers. Have you ever been part of a church where you just fall asleep? If you do, your pastor needs to learn how to bam around a little bit. People want to discover joy. They want to see the joy of Jesus Christ in your life. If you just sit like a bump on a log, yeah, I go to church every week, and it's a lot of fun. I learn a couple of things. Hey, you know, look what we talked about last week in church. This was so exciting. It got me out of my seat. I wanted to sing these hymns even more and just shout it out for Jesus Christ. How are you portraying yourself to other people? Are you getting excited about God? God's giving you the salt to spread to His people. There's people out there that need flavor. They're kind of dull. I wouldn't want to taste their dish. They're not Lutheran. They don't know how to cook. We have good food in this church. We know it. We've had people ask us to have another 175th celebration. Just do it all over again. That was some good eating, let me tell you. You know, sometimes even in our own lives, we get a little bland, don't we? Our lives as Christians aren't nearly as exciting as it should. You need to go home and get a flavor test. You need to have your spouse taste the flavor of you. Do you taste good as a Christian? Do you need a little bit of salt added into your life? Ask your spouse, am I getting excited about Jesus? If I'm not, can we do it together? Help me bring some salt into my life that I can spread flavor to the other people that I'm around. You know, it's kind of funny. We need that bam every once in a while in our life, don't we? Sometimes you just want to go up there and do like Emerald does, and go, bam! Doesn't that make you feel good? When you go home, catch Dave, you just walk right in the door and go, bam! And he'll go, where'd you learn that? Our pastor! But that's the goodness that I'm talking about. That's the goodness of Jesus Christ. This is the flavor that you should have when you talk to other people about how exciting He is to you and what He's done for your life. Don't scare people away and just dump the whole shaker on it at one time. Just take it a little spritz at a time. Take a taste every once in a while and see how it's going. Because believe it or not, as you spread that salt, as you add flavor into people's lives, you will change them, I guarantee. Let us turn to Philippians, and we're going to end here today. I want you to turn to Philippians chapter 2. Philippians chapter 2. Beginning with the 14th verse. Philippians chapter 2, beginning with the 14th verse. In everything you do, stay away from complaining and arguing, so that no one can speak a word of blame against you. You are to live clean, innocent lives as children of God in a dark world full of crooked and perverse people. Let your lives shine brightly before them. Hold tightly to the word of life, so that when Christ returns, I will be proud that I did not lose the race, and that my work was not useless. But even if my life is to be poured out like a drink offering to complete the sacrifice of your faithful service, that is, if I am to die for you, I will rejoice. And I want to share my joy with all of you, and you should be happy